audiences just went wild over them. In one of the great screwball comedies, a young woman defies her controlling father. She jumps off his yacht, goes ashore, ends up on a night bus where she meets a dashing, rugged, tough-minded newspaper reporter, and we know they're destined to fall in love. In another, a debonair, sophisticated man is living with a group of derelicts in sort of a homeless camp. And he ends up being taken into the home of a well-to-do family, a dysfunctional family, where he poses as their butler, Godfrey.
Yeah.
He too solves problems for the family and ends up with the lovely daughter that's within that family unit. The screwball comedies could be surprising. They always delighted. And the one we're going to see tonight, one not seen that often, also has moment after moment of delightful sequences. You're going to see in this film 3 classic Hollywood stars. Foremost, there is the great Barbara Stanwyck. Every time I see Barbara Stanwyck, I'm reminded of a statement she once made that she was from Brooklyn, and you really couldn't put anything over on her. She had been born Ruby Catherine Stevens. She was the youngest of 5 children, and she had a tough upbringing. Her parents ended up having all sorts of problems. Her mother died when Barbara was just 4 years old, and her father disappeared soon afterwards. She went from foster home to foster home, and she developed a great resilience, and it also gave her a terrific point of view that just about anything could be survived. She was a dancer. She ended up on Broadway, where she changed her name, and then she went to Hollywood, where directors like Frank Capra and Cecil B. DeMille just were in ecstasy over her great talents. In this film today, she plays Melsa Manton, and she's a socialite, and she seems rather frivolous and flighty, and she likes hanging out with her socialite friends. They too seem frivolous. There they are, and they often are performing pranks. Early on in the movie, the Stanwyck character is out walking her dogs, and she ends up discovering, as you'll see, and I'm not going to tell you everything, she sees a dead body in a pool of blood, and nearby a diamond brooch. She's determined soon to find out what happened. The police lieutenant who shows up doesn't believe, he can't find the body, he can't find the brooch, and he doesn't believe Stanwyck. He thinks it's another prank that she's committed. A newspaper editor also doesn't believe her, and the part is played by Henry Fonda. When the two meet, they clash, but Fonda already has a crush on her, and we know they've got to end up together. The movie continues, and we see these 2 great classic stars at a certain point in their careers. This is the first of 3 films that they will do together. They later are going to appear in one of the great classics, The Lady Eve. Stanwyck and Fonda keep this movie moving, but there is a 3rd classic star in this film. And no matter what anyone says, she indeed is a star. This is Hattie McDaniel. Woo! Hattie McDaniel plays Barbara Stanwyck's maid in the film. And Hattie McDaniel had had a long, tough rise in the movies. She had been born in 1893 in Wichita, Kansas. At a young age, she was a singer, professional entertainer. When the Depression hit, McDaniel decided to go to Hollywood. Her older brother, Sam McDaniel, was there, and Sam worked on the radio, and he did movies, hundreds of movies, in which he often didn't get billing. McDaniel decided she would try her luck. She, too, made a number of films in which she had no billing. And sometimes when she was billed, they misspelled her name. As you're going to see today with the end credits for this movie, she is listed as Hattie McDaniels with an S on the end of her name. Now, McDaniel gets to Hollywood, and top directors eventually see the unique talents that she has. John Ford uses her in Judge Priest. George Stevens gives her a spectacular sequence in Alice Adams. James Whale uses her in the 1936 version of Showboat. Now, the thing about McDaniel, we can't forget this, she was often criticized for roles that she did not write. She was criticized for playing mammy characters and always a maid. But we want to look at Hattie McDaniel and see how she rips the stereotype apart. She takes it in another direction. Foremost, as you're going to see today, Hattie McDaniel has that big sonic boom of a voice. You hear her speak, you know she was born to give orders, not to take them.
Woo! Love that. Love that. Yeah.
Hattie McDaniel always invests her characters with a certain kind of authority and a certain kind of agency. And she worked with some of the biggest stars in Hollywood, from Katharine Hepburn to Clark Gable to Jean Harlow. And it's a pleasure to see Harlow and McDaniel match temperaments. Here, Hattie McDaniel, again as a maid, but it's very interesting, listen to this, because Hattie McDaniel has certain zingers. She's there with Barbara Stanwyck's socialite friends. There's one of these friends, a young woman who can't stop eating, and she wants Hattie McDaniel repeatedly to give her late-night snacks. Finally, McDaniel has had it, and she tells her, the kitchen's closed for the night. At one point, Barbara Stanwyck reprimands Hattie McDaniel, and she says, well, she's our guest. You can't treat her like that. And McDaniel says, I didn't invite her up. Throughout, she has these lines. And what is interesting, when the script went to the production code office, Joseph Green objected to some of the dialogue that was given to Hattie McDaniel. He felt that her character, and he knew how McDaniel was going to play her, was going to be much too familiar with the whites that she worked for, and that she was going to convey a kind of social equality. He wanted some of the material cut. Some was cut, but they still left other lines of dialogue in. Watch her carefully. Watch the way she makes use of each line of dialogue. She's not in it a lot, but she uses each moment of screen time to the utmost. The three of them, Barbara Stanwyck, Henry Fonda, with Hattie by their side, give us a really delightful film directed by Lee Jason, released in 1938. And now, the Mad Miss Manton.